Hi everyone. Today markets did hold a slightly higher low here and push up to this potential double top to close out the session. Let's see if we can figure out where it might be going here in the short term and potentially into those medium term charts.
Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started.
So in interesting economic news, you have Honda and Nissan potentially in merger talks to create the third largest automaker in the world. If the deal goes through, this will make a company worth about $191 billion in revenue and about a tenth of that in operating profit. If these two companies can come together and actually make this happen. Nissan's been struggling for a while. Honda continues to do very well, and it kind of makes sense for them to come together. These are both Japanese automakers, and as they say here, coming together will give them an edge that's not currently possible under the collaboration framework. So basically they feel like they'll be more competitive together than they would be separately. And they also mention here, Nissan's strategic partner in Mitsubishi has been offered a chance to join the new group and will make a decision by the end of January 2025. Moving over to the Fear and Greed Index, we stepped up slightly to a 30, still deep in the fear category here. Slight bounce, still fear on momentum. Strength continues to crater. Super low levels now at a 0.75, some of the lowest levels we've seen since all the way back here in July, and that did mark a pretty substantial bottom. Breadth continuing to go lower makes sense. All the way down at a 677, extremely low level for that indicator. You can see that is lower than July and lower than we've seen really in the last year. And then looking at put call ratio, finally starting to get up there into some more normal levels, 0.72. Usually you get into the 0.8 to 0.9 area before you see substantial bottoms, but we'll see. Market volatility continues to crater. Safe haven demand back into neutral. Interesting. And then looking at junk bonds still in regular fear. Moving over to the economic calendar, you can see core durable goods slightly better than the previous number. Goods orders still negative, definitely way worse than the previous, but that was revised up slightly from 0.3 to 0.8. New home sales better than expectations there. Consumer confidence not great. Building permits not great. So interesting. And then for tomorrow, you do have a short trading day, early close at 1300. And then for Tuesday, you have those durable goods orders, minus 0.3 expectations. You can see it was pretty bad on the previous, so we're expecting this one to be bad as well. New home sales also there for Tuesday. And that is a duplicate. You can see new home sales. We had that today, 664, expectation 650. Both of those are for November. Not sure why those are populating twice. And then of course, Merry Christmas for the Wednesday. And then for Thursday, just continuing jobless claims, Fed balance sheet, and 7-year note auction. Not a whole lot. Moving over to Max Pain, you can see Max Pain is currently at $5.99, just barely above the current price, about 1% higher. 650 options, put call ratio very low. For me, this says markets are able to fall with those low put numbers. 590 is kind of your first put wall with very little calls at it. So again, about a 1% down move potentially, but realistically, these put walls are so little that you could expect it to fall even lower, 585. Call walls in here at 600 and 605, again, relatively small, but I'm expecting significant resistance in that 600 area. Moving over to the charts, starting off with the S&Ps, you can see we've been in this channel for a while. We're coming up to these key resistance levels, VWAP, 21 EMA, 9 EMA, all of those levels. Momentum stepping to bullish here a little bit. Interesting. You can see it's up just a few pennies after hours, so it's holding levels in here. Current resistance is this major trend line at 596.50. That's going to be critical tomorrow. My guess is we get at least a touch of that. You can see that's where we rejected on the Friday session. And we're very close to those levels. Wouldn't shock me to overthrow and push to that 21 EMA at 599.05. Volume, not a whole lot. Makes sense for a Monday. We'll see how it plays out. Some position accumulation, volume coming in at the end of the session. And you can see that here. Relatively decent volume at the end of the session. Not a whole lot on the SPY, but you can see it was positive. Broke through this level here, held 21 EMA retest, looking for the trend here, 597, and then my level 599.64. And then you have that major overhead resistance on the hourly, the 144 and the 200 sitting in there just at my level 599.64, and then the 200 just behind it, 601.50. So right in here, super critical zone. Wouldn't shock me to see a big push into this area, key resistance, and then you get the rejection from there. The daily momentum says we could go a little bit higher, like I said. So everything points to just a little bit more bullishness. The concern right now for me is this double top, right? So you came into this zone, which was the high from the Friday session, found some resistance in there. We'll see if it rejects from there or if it does push into that key level up in that 599 to 601 area. Moving over to the 4-hour chart for the SPY, you can see on the Tasty charts, we're back into bullish conditions. We got there here with the Friday session, pushed into bullish conditions, held those levels here on the Monday session. In terms of zones, again, same areas, 699 to that 601 area. But remember, on the hourly chart, you can see we're still in bearish conditions, ATR trailing stop all the way at 607.94. So again, mixed signals, short term, bullish, medium term, a little bit bearish. Volume, interesting. Momentum on the volume weighted MACD starting to step to bullish a little bit. This is a key level. You can see the trailing stop was in here as well at 596.67. That is going to be a key area. We'll see if that gets touched tomorrow. I expect that it will, and then we'll see if we either reject from there or push higher to the 601 area. Moving over to the NASDAQ, very similar thesis here, 0.81 to the upside, about $4, pushing towards that 9 EMA at 525.90. Momentum got basically a sideways step, but it was slightly bullish there. Again, a little bit of volume, pretty much in line with these other days here. And it was slightly bullish volume, closed relatively close to the high. And then we did sell off just a smidgen after hours, nothing crazy. So you're above 21, back above VWAP, looking for that 9 EMA test. And then looking at the hourly, again, same kind of thesis where you have this clean double top right at the end of the session. Very concerning, starting to sell off a smidgen after hours. And you can see the volume there on that last candle and then immediately gave you selling at the end. The other concern here is this is the 15-minute chart, and you can see we did not get to the high of that Friday session like we saw on the SPY. That was all the way up in the 525 area. You can see that a little better here on the hourly. Missed those highs. Did break out just like we saw above the 55, above the 21, but we topped out and we didn't hit those levels. Didn't hit the 200 there at 525.77. Key level for me, 526.50. So again, right in that overhead resistance area. Does it push there and then reject, or does it reject immediately from here? Certainly a possibility, either one. Watching for either of those. So overall, short term, I would say bullish into this zone, and then I would expect some rejections from there. Moving over to the Tasty charts for the Qs, you can see we're still in bearish conditions on the daily, just like we were on the SPY. No volume markers here for today, pushed right to that 9 EMA, 522.66. Continuing to hover right there in the after hours. And then looking at the 4-hour chart, pulled back, held the 144 EMA in that 518.30 area, bounced off that level and then rallied through. Bullish conditions on all of the short terms at this point. Really just that daily chart, which is way up there. Overall, if it can get above 523.19, push to that upper band makes sense in the 533 area. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, the Russell was negative about 0.25% or about 50 cents. Nothing crazy. Holding these levels after the bull day on Friday. Momentum stepping to bullish. We'll see if we get any follow through on that over the next day or two. Similarly here on the Dow, positive 0.08, so not a whole lot. Still hitting this trend resistance in here. Touch the level, rejected from there. That trend's going to be 429.89 tomorrow. It's pretty much at it in the after hours. And again, momentum stepping to bullish. RSI looking to retest that SMA in here. Once we touch that level, I think that's going to be a major point of resistance, but in the short term, it makes sense we could get into these upper levels here. 441.43 is the level, 21 EMA in that same area, 440.36. Moving over to the Mag 7, just for a moment, you can see breakdown retest. Waiting to see if we get that breakdown or if it pushes through back up to these levels. Critical zone here on the Mag 7. In tomorrow's session, that resistance is going to be 327.37. Critical level, like I mentioned, momentum bearish. RSI could rally up and retest the SMA. Maybe we come up here to get a true double top, hit the major resistance in here. Honestly, this could go either way for me. Momentum still is bearish, and I would expect it to reject if I had to pick, but everything seems to want to go up here over the last 2 days. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple continuing to do well, up 0.33%, continuing to be in price discovery, all-time highs, momentum bullish. RSI, not so much. So we've broken down, looking to retest the SMA. Is it going to reject from there? Potentially. And then looking at Microsoft, negative on the day, 0.3, falling after hours right to the trend support here, 432.80. We had the fake out breakdown here, momentum bearish, big volume on the selling. Everything says this should go a little lower. 429.88 is the support line, and then the 200 would be my next level there at 423.44. Then looking at Tesla and NVDA, Tesla was up 2.27, almost touched the level, ended up catching a little bit of a bounce. Momentum still bearish, RSI still a little bit bearish, but big move. And then looking at NVIDIA, we said this might be the place to be in here over the last couple days. Momentum stepping, RSI stepping. And sure enough, you got the big continuation there, about 3 and almost 3/4, 3 and 2/3 really. Broke above all the EMAs and SMAs, right to level 140.76. If it pushes through there, 144.42 is in play, and maybe as high as the all-time highs, or my level, 149.65. So big hold of support in here. Momentum and RSI both look very good. Moving over to Meta and Broadcom. Meta had a terrible week last week, but a good bounce here today, 2.5%. Momentum still bearish, RSI still looking for a retest of the SMA down here, and then looking at the levels 602.95, very, very close. I expect we touch that at least once tomorrow. And then looking at Broadcom, big update there as well, about 5.25%. Not a ton of volume, but you can see big push through, tested support, held support, rally through, up after hours. My guess is this continues back up to the trend in here eventually at 252 or so. And I would expect a strong push on tomorrow's session if we can get the volume. Some of those short trading days, you don't have the same kind of volume, but we'll see. Broadcom looks good here in the short term. Moving over to staples and discretionaries, you got staples down 1.25%. Momentum still very bearish, almost oversold. I'm sure we hit oversold at some point there. RSI is at a 30.17, and that's at the closing price. At the low of day, we were all the way down to 78.16, so about $1 lower at the lows, ended up bouncing and holding the level 78.88, so that's the key level. It's up a smidgen after hours. We'll see if that ends up holding 200s right there as well, 79.03. And then looking at discretionaries, positive on the day, so still risk on environment. Discretionaries holding up while staples are falling. I think you could make a little bit of an argument that this might flip here tomorrow. That would be interesting. Staples holding a key wick rejection at a key level, waiting to see if this bounces from there. And then discretionary is relatively flat on the day. Momentum still bearish. Moving over to the dollar, you can see the dollar was positive on the day, about 0.25%. Big rally up, held the level 108. Closed right at the trend, not quite closed yet, but it will be. That is at the trend line as your resistance. We'll see if it can push through there tomorrow or not. Momentum continues to fade. RSI continues to look bullish. So as long as the dollar continues to hold up, my guess is that equities will probably hold either flat or slightly bearish. If this rejects from here tomorrow, that should give equities a little bit of a shot in the arm, but for now, holding at a key resistance. Moving over to bonds. Bonds resumed the selling here today. JNK down about 0.25%. Momentum flat. Key level there, 94.82. Did retest these levels in here and then sold off. And then looking at TLT, we resumed the selling here as well, about a 1% move. 85.90 is the next level. We've been talking about it as your next zone of support. We are right at the lows here from this previous low. The low ultimately was 87.34. So very, very close there, 16 cents until the low from the closing price. We'll see if we get a touch there tomorrow. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Moving over to the VIX. VIX continued to sell off here today, down into these key levels around that 144 EMA at 16.68. 200 sitting there at 16, momentum stepping down, RSI critical zone here, right? So we're getting very close to the SMA, waiting to see if we touch that level and bounce or not. If it pushes through back down into the 14 area, maybe this is just a short-lived spike and we do see a kind of resumption of this medium to long-term rally, but a couple of levels it needs to get through before we can say that we have avoided a medium to long-term breakdown. Moving over to my accounts, you can see I made about $300 on the day, something in there. Did pretty well in terms of trading short term, really just scalping throughout the day, making a little bit of money. The overnight position was short, made that money, and then took some short and long positions throughout the day. You can see I had a lot of trades, actually 30 on the day. Definitely more than I like to take, but I was trading pretty well. I was kind of in tune with markets, which was good considering the NASDAQ was up about $5 on the day, about 1%. Obviously, I underperformed that, but I managed to make some money. And then I did not hold any positions into tomorrow's session. Really concerned about that lower high setup, major resistance areas, and you can see it is falling a little bit after hours, 522.40 down from 522.87. Again, markets look short-term bullish, but those medium-term charts have an overhang, and I am absolutely concerned about that. It wouldn't shock me to see a major rejection tomorrow off of that key level that we closed at on the SPY charts with the double top, and then the lower high setup on the Qs. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of the Honda-Nissan merger. Are they going to be able to compete with the rest of the automakers, or is that sector not really super great for investors? At least that's my opinion. Otherwise, let me know what you think of markets. Like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.